you are divorced and it's after the third talaq, it's final. You will have to move on. But I agree with you. All wives want their husbands, under normal circumstances, no one really wants to be divorced. So I agree with you. It should be fair. It should be fair to everyone to ensure that I have the marriage that I want with the person that I want to be with. So I totally understand that sentiment and that concern. Okay. I agree with you, is that when we tell people, divorce or, be patient, and we're not able to cope, it does put people at risk of committing zina. But I'm also going to hold each of us still individually accountable for our behavior. Because I am divorced and because I don't like the conditions under which I got the divorce, you don't commit zina. This is a sin. We are still responsible and accountable for ourselves and the things that we do. All right? So I'm going to move on to the next question. It says, I am so confused about the divorce system in Islam. My husband gave me talaq the first time, I guess. He is unable to control his anger. We had a small fight, and he said, it was enough, I'm divorced. He said it was more than once, but as I know of anger, it does not matter how many times he says. It will be applied only once. I am just so confused. Islam usually is so strict to give everyone's rights and protect everyone's rights. How come a man can divorce this easily? And he does not even have to go to the masjid and say it in front of witnesses in front of witnesses that he is divorcing his wife. It is completely enough to say it to her only. No witness. Why? How is a marriage then protected in Islam? Well, a wife has to suffer a lot if she wants to get a kula. I am really afraid to continue this marriage like this or have children with the man who says the words talaq right away anytime he is angry at me for some reason. What do you advise me? All right, the first thing I'm going to advise you is I am not going to give feedback in regard to how a divorce is done in Islam, because I do know, based on what you described, some of the things that you said in this is not the procedures for an Islamic divorce. And there's a couple of them that I could pick out. But I'm going to advise you to go to an imam, a scholar, so that you can be informed of that directly. Please go to your imam and get the steps for divorce so that both of you, you and your husband, can be knowledgeable on how to do this. I don't want you to do it, but Allah has made this permissible. And if we are going to do the things that He has given us that are permissible, then we have to know how to actually do them. So please go to a scholar. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to address some things. Really, this is not really necessarily an issue of why is divorce in Islam this way? Why does he get to do it this way? Really, this is an issue of anger and lack of self-management. And I know he's not the only man with this issue. Many of us have poor anger control. But that's really is what this is about. Being able to control our anger. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the best things that he advised us to do is to not become angry. To not become angry. To not become angry. And when we do, he gave us some things to do. If you're standing up, you sit down. If you're sitting down, you lay down. You can make wudu. You can make 2 rakats. There are many things that we can do to control our anger. But this really is an issue of each of you, not just for the husband, but for each of you, controlling your temperament. Now, sister, I do understand what you're saying. I'm really afraid to continue in a marriage like this or have children with this man. I understand the fear because the thing about, anger is it is one of those emotions that just has you just off balance because you never know how intense it's going to be. You don't always know when it's going to happen. And so when you see it and it's off balance, you become off balance too. And it's hard to live like this. It really is. So what I'm going to advise you to do is, well, again, go to a scholar. And two, to remind your husband of the steps that Islam provides when you see his temper potentially escalating. Don't wait until he does. Islam says the reminder benefits the believer. Just give him a gentle reminder. Brother, please. A Muslim is protected from the hands and the tongue of another Muslim. Please lower your tone, inshallah. Please, if you need to, go and make wudu so you can calm down. Give him the reminder. Redirect him back to Islam. And that may help him with his self-management. Be sure you go see any man, inshallah. Alright? So, I'm going to go to the next one. And I actually believe it's the last one for today. Ooh. It's a long one. I'm still scrolling, people. It's like, whoa. Okay. All right. We're going to have to break this one down. What to do with the husband who apparently seems to be offended all the time. I admit I made a mistake to criticize him occasionally, but I do try to change and take care of my words. I feel he has a negative idea about me and always interprets my words in a negative way, regardless of whether I said it in a normal kind of way, according to me. Okay, so I'm taking some little notes on this one as I go along, because I got to unpack this one slowly, okay? For example, I asked him to send money from his bank card in the morning because usually he's tired in the afternoon. Okay, got it. I thought asking him in the morning when he is usually fresh is better than after work. When I said this to him, he only focused on the word usually, interpreting tiredness in a negative way. And then I forget the days when I do come home smiling and fine, not tired and frustrated and rude. Well, I'm sorry. I forget the days when he does not come home smiling and fine, not tired and frustrated and rude. Or I simply ask, what's your plan for the weekend? His response, 3 weeks haven't passed yet, referring to our agreement that we go out together to do something every 3 weeks. Okay. I feel he is not empathetic, does not want to understand what I mean, how I think. Many times he says that what I'm saying is not correct, or he does not understand what I am saying, or shows his dislike or disagreement in some form, which usually hurts me. He also says the last words are his, which basically means everything. In the realm of Islam, of course, good or bad, is decided by him, his own matters, and my own matters, or common matters, they don't matter. What he says is always right. He always has a good reason why he says that, and I should obey as a wife because a wife must obey her husband. I cannot make him understand that things are subjective. And so treating a wife well is my right. Is that he does not is that he tries to dictate and control my life. For example, on my free time, as long as it does not cross the borders of Islam. He tries to control my free time as long as it does not control the borders that Islam has defined. But as we must go according to his own interpretation, I can say this is still completely Islamic. He says, no, it's not. So, I am going to take another little note here. I feel he immediately raises the wall when there is any little thing that goes against his idea. And usually he tends to interpret everything in a negative way. Most of our conversation goes into a kind of debate. For this, it needs to be said that for 3 years we lived in my country in a completely different culture than his. He does not speak the language. He feels treated badly in a bad manner at work. He is frustrated but still working with people who have different types of education. It means he's not working in his specialized field. And so he's always thinking of what he can do. So I understand that. And this affects him a lot. You know, I understand the main problem is that his man ego is broken and his self-esteem is low. Besides the fact he needs to have satisfying work and learn the language or move from here, or that I stop criticizing him and I try to give him praise. There's a lot going on here. You have a couple that have so many things that are going on. You have a couple there. You have cultural issues. You have language issues. And then you have marital issues. And then you have individual issues. You have a wife who doesn't feel like she's being heard. You have a husband who has issues at work and who's thinking his wife is criticizing him way too much. And then he's not doing the very thing in his career that he feels good about and that he knows that he can do well. It's just not a great design for happiness. This is surely how you break the mold to be happy. So, one of the first things that I would say to address these issues of communication is I'm going to suggest that the two of you, and I'm going to speak primarily to the sister because she was the one who presented this. Because you cannot control another person. You can't make your husband do anything. But you can manage yourself. So, since you already know some of the things that he has going on with himself, because you shared some of them here, I would recommend to give the brother the benefit of the doubt. To think good of him. Now, how would you do that? How would you think good of him? Where you say, I feel like he has a negative idea. I feel like he interprets my words in a negative way. I'm not even going to say that how you feel isn't true. I'm not even going to say that it doesn't, the way he responds to you, that it doesn't even come across like that because I don't know, I'm not there. But what I can tell you, one of the ways that you can turn this around is, rather than making the assumption that he does mean something, he's taking it negative, ask him. Ask him. Ask him, when I said that to you, how did you take it to be that I meant that to be in a bad way? What did I say, or how did I say it for you to take it that you felt that it was going to be harmful or hurtful to you? What did I say that will cause you to feel like I'm trying to be, or I have an intention to be disobedient? Because, excuse me, you can disagree without being disobedient. So, if he feels this way, if he thinks this about you, find out where this is coming from. before you make the assumption that that's what it is. The second thing I'm going to suggest to you is counseling, professional counseling. Because the two of you, the way that the two of you are talking, this dialogue, this back and forth, and you're saying that your conversations sound like debate, this is toxic. And I'm sure that it's hard for both of you to live this way. And then to have all the other dynamics that you have going on. And so those are the two things that I would suggest that you do. For those of you who are looking for, how do we find Naaila? You can find me at www.thatclaycouple.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Assalamu alaikum.